Hey everyone, Jeremy here. Today we're going to take a look at one of my favorite cruise ports in Asia, Da Nang, Vietnam. Now this port really has something for everyone, as you have the city of Da Nang to explore, as well as further afield options such as Hue, the Marble Mountains, and the incredibly popular river town to the south, Hoi An. Now the goal of this video is to help you decide how you best want to spend your time in this port, as there are just so many different options. Now, if you haven't actually yet booked a cruise and you're just looking at the different itineraries, if you happen to find one that includes an overnight stay in Da Nang, I'd highly recommend it. Not only to have the opportunity to see as much of this region as you possibly can, but also by being there at nighttime, you can see the town of Hoi An lit up at nighttime by its street lanterns. But first, let's check out the port area and the facilities. Now, the first thing to note is that you actually don't dock downtown in the city. Cruise ships dock at the industrial Tien Sa port on the Son Tra Peninsula, which is about 7 miles or 11 kilometers from the heart of the city of Da Nang. It's very much a container shipping port, and there's nothing really in the way of tourism amenities, so don't expect any things like Wi-Fi upon arrival at the port. However, it is available once downtown, or at many cafes in places like Hue and Hoi An. Now once docked, normally on the pier ashore, you might have a local vendor offering you some currency exchange. You'll also have all of your cruise line's tour buses and often the shuttle services too. Now as this is a working port, most cruise lines will offer a shuttle service into downtown Da Nang. Check with your cruise line to see if they're offering a shuttle and then also whether it's free or if they're charging for it. What you'll also find here are a series of local taxi drivers looking to get hired for a set price for the day or for set fare trips to places like Hoi An. Now please note that these ones close to the port typically will offer prices that are just wildly inflated, often 4 to 5 times the price of what they really should be. Now my tip here is if you go out beyond the port gates, you'll find many drivers out there waiting who will often offer you a much more reasonable fare. Now also keep your eye out for these golf cart-like shuttles too, as they're complimentary, just taking you from the cruise ship to the port gate. Now these are handy if you have private tours that are picking you up outside the gates, or if you're wanting to connect with some of these local taxis, or use ride-sharing apps like Grab for example. Now it's time to decide what to see and do from the Da Nang cruise port. Firstly, the options closer to the port area. Now please note, everything is a driving distance away from the port, there's nothing you can really walk to. So for this section, I'm focusing on what is within a 25-minute drive from the port area. Now up first is the closest place of interest to the port, and that is the Lin Un Pagoda and the impressive Lady Buddha. They are located nearby on the Son Tra Peninsula, or what many of you might know as Monkey Mountain. You also have downtown Da Nang. Here you'll find some great local food options and sites such as the Da Nang Cathedral, the Han Market, and the Museum of Cham Sculpture. You can also access Da Nang's famous beach coastline from here too. Now just beyond Da Nang, heading south, you also have the Marble Mountains. This collection of 5 marble and limestone hills are home to many Buddhist and Hindu temples and an incredible collection of caves to explore. Now if you are willing to travel a little bit further, some of Vietnam's most famous sites are right at your doorstep from this port. Firstly, whilst it's a long way away, for history buffs in particular, the 3-hour drive north to Hue could provide one of the highlights of your Vietnam cruise experience. From palaces and pagodas to tombs and temples, this UNESCO World Heritage destination really has it all. Just give yourself enough time to fully explore the citadel and the surrounding places of interest. Now speaking of history, you could also head south to My Son, the site of Vietnam's most extensive Cham remains. Another UNESCO World Heritage Site, it was rediscovered by the French in the 19th century after being hidden for centuries. For a family-friendly option, you could head inland to Sunworld Ba Na Hills, a kind of educational amusement park that is home to the social media famous Golden Hands Bridge. However, for many, a trip to Vietnam isn't complete without a visit to Hoi An. Now this is one of Vietnam's most historic and atmospheric towns. Pedestrianized streets lined with cafes and art galleries, local markets, and sites such as the Japanese covered bridge and the Chinese assembly halls make this a wonderful place to spend a few hours. Now we'll cover Hoi An more in depth in another video, however this is an incredible option both by day and by night. Now as the sun sets, the lanterns are lit and floated downriver, and the streets are lit up to all kinds of colour. Truly a magical place. So just a few tips to help maximize your experience here in Da Nang. Firstly, if you are planning on traveling independently, I'd highly recommend downloading the app Grab. Now it's similar to Uber, but it's far more popular in Southeast Asia, and you can also pay cash if you like to. Now please note you do need phone service or portable Wi-Fi to be able to use it, but it'll save you some money and get you a fair and reasonable fare. Now again, I'd hold off from jumping right at the first independent driver you see when stepping off the ship. The general rule of thumb here is that the further from the ship you go, the cheaper the transportation. If you do have the time, I'd recommend taking one of the drivers outside the port gate rather than the ones right by the ship if you aren't going on an organized tour. Now also currency. The local currency is the Vietnamese dong. At the time of this recording, $1 equaled roughly 23,700 dong. Now I use the currency website xe.com, they also have an app you can get on your phone too. I use it just to check the currency rates in advance. And yes, some places will accept a US dollar, especially if you're hiring a driver for the day. However, for things like smaller purchases, a coffee or some souvenirs for example, they'll always be cheaper in local currency. Now if you are heading into the city too, whilst there's not really any tourism information right by the port, there is a tourist office in the city of Da Nang. Now lastly, keep an eye on the weather. Often at the times of year that cruise ships visit Da Nang, there are some chances of some rain around. So keep an eye on the weather forecast so you can be best prepared as possible for any conditions. So there you go. Hopefully that'll get you off to a good start with planning your Da Nang port time. We will leave a link below to our Da Nang port information page on our website, and if you have any questions, just let us know in the comments section below. Now if you found this video useful, please do us a favor and click that subscribe button that you do see below too. Thanks very much for watching everyone, and enjoy your time in Da Nang.